Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And I have a very simple but delicious recipe for you today. This is an Asian steamed bun or bao, and we're gonna put in it a really wonderful Asian pork that I've got cooking right back there. So stick around to the end, you'll see that video too. All right, so the first thing we wanna do is get our yeast proofed. So I have half of a teaspoon of yeast and I have 2 tablespoons of warm water. So what I'm gonna do is just sort of sprinkle this over top here. You want your water to be somewhere between 104 and 110 for optimal proofing of the yeast. Anything over 115 will kill the yeast and you won't get a good rise in your dough. So my rule of thumb is I use either really hot tap water or I'll put it in the microwave for a few seconds and then I make sure it cools down to where I can put my finger in and hold it there for a while. If I can hold it there without needing to feel like I've got to remove it, my water's the right temperature. And I can already tell this is already starting to proof up. So we're just gonna set this to the side. Now you could stir it or you can leave it alone. I'm just gonna leave it alone right now. You could also add in the powdered sugar, but I'm gonna leave it out. I'm gonna put it into the dough instead. If you wanted to add in the powdered sugar, which is 1 tablespoon, only add in about half. Yeast loves sugar and it will help to bloom the yeast quicker, but if you put too much in, and it's only a half of a teaspoon of yeast, you may end up having the yeast take a lot longer to proof, because we want this to proof in about 5 to 10 minutes. So what I have here is 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I have a fine sieve strainer here. I'm going to use that to sift my flour. You could use, there's sifters you can get, but I just find that it's just as easy just to kind of tap this and sift the flour. And you could also use a colander, but I like the fine mesh strainer. That's my favorite way to sift flour. So I'm just going to sift this up. Sometimes it's easier if you just have something else and kind of bang on it. There we go. There, that's working great. Push it back in though. I don't know why today it's wanting to, you could also do it this way. I guess I could do it that way too. Anyway, you do want to sift your flour. It's going to make for a lighter bun. And these are steamed buns. And of course, you know we're going to do them in the Ninja Foodi. I thought this was so incredible. The first time I ever had an Asian steamed bun was when Jeff and I were out at a restaurant and I decided to order Asian tacos. Now I had absolutely no idea how they were going to be served. And when I saw these cute little buns come out, they were like little pillows and they taste, oh my gosh, they're so light and delicious. And the mixture inside was wonderful too. I've never found them again though. So after I got the Ninja Foodi, I said, you know what? I could make my own. And they're easy to do. Okay, that's perfect. So I can just set that to the side here. And to this mixture, I'm gonna add in my tablespoon of powdered sugar. I know that kind of seems like an odd ingredient, but I do encourage you to use it in this recipe. And we have 1 tablespoon of vitamin D milk. This is just whole milk. This is extra flour for when we go to knead. Just mix this in. So the milk and the powdered sugar has been incorporated, and now I'm going to put in the yeast. And kind of mix that up a little bit. Then the last ingredient that we're going to add in is a half of a cup of tap water. This does not have to be warm or anything, just regular tap water is fine. Just mix that up until you get a nice loose dough. Now I have a little bit of flour there that I'm just gonna put onto the surface. Not too much, maybe just about a tablespoon or so. And now I'm gonna dump the dough. It hasn't even really come together as a dough ball yet. And that's fine. Put that over there. And now we start to knead a little bit. So if you watch any of my other bread videos, it's the same process. You're just gonna push down, fold it over, and push down. Now this is a dry dough. It does not feel sticky or anything like that. So we are just gonna knead it until it comes together. If your dough did seem sticky, you can add a little bit more flour. And if you think it's really too dry, you can add a little bit more water. Just do them in very small increments, because if you add too much water, it'll get really wet and sticky. And then if you add too much flour, it will become too tough. So, and sometimes you'll add a little water and then you realize you made it too wet, and then you've got to add a little bit of flour, and then it's too dry, and then you just keep going until now you've had 3 cups of flour, and we don't want to do that. So work with it for at least 2 or 3 minutes before you make a decision to add any extra water or flour. Because you see, this is coming together just fine, and I haven't even been kneading it but maybe a minute. So I'm just going to push. Fold it back over, push, turn it, fold it, and push. And we're gonna do this for about 5 minutes. I often get questions asked about whether or not this can be done in a bread, like a mixer, a stand mixer. Yes. Or could it be mixed in a bread machine? Yes. No problems. I just like to do it by hand. Okay, so what you're gonna notice as you work with the dough and knead it is it's gonna soften a little bit. Now this is still kind of a tough dough, but it softens a little bit, and then it changes texture. So it goes from something like this, which is kind of craggly and lumpy, to something smoother, and that's what you want. You want a nice smooth bread. So I'm just going to take this another minute or so, but I can see as I'm pushing on it, it's like a little looser. It's hard to explain, but just becomes a little more pliable. We're activating the gluten in there, and we're stretching it out. You can see how smooth that's looking. That's what we want to see. Okay. Yep, I think we are just about there. That looks pretty good. So probably 5 to 10 minutes is a good time frame to knead this. Okay, so now we're gonna get it in to the Ninja Foodi to proof. Now, if you do not have the dehydration function, don't worry. Just preheat the Ninja Foodi on 250 on the bake roast for about 5 minutes. And I do this before I start kneading the bread, because you also want to let that heat kind of dissipate before you put this in. You also do not want to put the dough right on the bottom, because that's going to be really hot. You want to put it on a rack or in a cake pan or something like that. So, but then you can proof it. Just turn the Ninja Foodi off, close the lid, and let the residual heat proof it. But you want it to cool down some. So sometimes I'll even open up the lid for a few minutes and let that heat out. Now this dough is feeling really nice now. It's soft, it's pliable, it's nice and smooth. I'm real happy with it. Now, we're going on the dehydration function, so I don't need to put this up on a rack. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it right down the bottom of the Ninja Foodi. All right, so let me grab the olive oil, and we're gonna put a couple of twirls. I'm not measuring this, like a tablespoon or so, just in the bottom. And then I'm gonna put the bread down and swirl it around, and then flip it back over so that it doesn't dry out. We don't want this to dry out. I also have a flour sack that is just damp, and I'm gonna set that over top, because what happens is the fan goes with the dehydration, and we don't want that to dry out the top. I'm gonna turn the Ninja Foodi on and hit the dehydration. We're gonna take it all the way down to 105 degrees. It's going to go to 1 hour. You can't set it for any less than 1 hour, but we're just gonna do it for 30 minutes. And then we will separate the dough into the balls and form our little buns, and then we let them rise for another 20 minutes before we steam them. All right, so our dough has been proofing for a little over 30 minutes, and it looks like it is ready. So I'm gonna pull it out here, and it's like nice and soft, and it bounces back when you push into it. It'll fill back in. Oh, it's beautiful. I'm really, really, really happy with this dough. Now what we want to do is form our buns. Now you could make these as, well, you can't really make them as large as you want because if they're too big, they're not going to cook right. So what I try to do is break off about maybe a golf ball size of these little dough balls. And you're going to get probably between 8 and 10 little buns out of these. You just go around and just... Now, if you really wanted to be exact, you could weigh them, but oh my goodness, I'm not going to any of that trouble. Just pinching them off. There's 6. We might actually get 12 out of this. All right, so we have 12 balls of dough here. Then all I'm going to do is just roll them. Okay, so I want them to be smooth balls, just like that, okay? And then I'm just going to take it and I'm going to press down. Parchment paper is very important with this. You're going to want to put these on parchment paper, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Just going to take a piece about this size here. You might be able to go half, but let me just see how it goes. You know what I'm going to need to do is put this in half. So 2 little squares like that. Don't have to be exact, of course. Flatten them out. And then take a chopstick, which is, you don't have to do it this way, but you want to lay the whole bun onto a piece of parchment. Otherwise, it will stick to the bamboo. So this is very important that you do that. And then I just put this in the middle, fold it over. But then you also want to put the parchment, in fact, I don't even need that much, right in there. So see that chopstick? That doesn't really matter, but kind of, if you then hold it here and just pull the chopstick out, you're fine. And that's 1. And we're gonna repeat that. And we're probably gonna steam 6 at a time. I have tried to do a double layer steaming and it just didn't work as well. So I'm gonna stick with steaming just 6 at a time. They take about 12 minutes, but they will hold. So you could do 6 and then do another 6. Or you could try to do a double steam. You know, if you have a steamer basket like this, you could try to do 2 at a time. It just didn't work out as well for me. So I've decided that I'm just gonna do 1 batch at a time. So for the last one, I don't need to have parchment on the bottom because there's enough in the center here to protect this last one. So I'm just going to put it inside. Just fold it over, and then we'll set it right down. Okay, so I'm gonna get this covered. I'm gonna go ahead and do the second layer because I want them all to rise at the same time. And then we will get them into steam for 12 minutes. So as soon as I finish rolling that, we'll let them rise for 20 minutes. And then we'll come back and steam them. Okay, so the buns have risen up really beautifully, and now it's time to steam them. So I'm gonna put the cover on, and one thing that I did try is I tried to use the rack, but what happens, because of the lid here, if you try to use the rack in the 6.5 quart, it isn't tall enough, so you just can't do that. So I don't want this sitting so it's submerged in the water. Although there is about a half of an inch space, I still want to maybe give it another half of an inch. So I'm going to use this little silicone. I think it's by OXO, and I will definitely link to that in the description. So I'm just going to put that in and put it straight in to the Ninja Foodi pot, which I have 3 cups of just plain tap water in there. So we're going to set that in and put the pressure lid on. Now, very important, make sure it's to vent. Okay, so if it's loose, that is to seal. You need to make sure that you push it over so you hear it click, you feel it click, and it raises up just a little bit. And then we're gonna set the time. We're gonna set it to steam, and we're gonna set the time to 12 minutes and hit the start button. Now it's gonna take a little bit of time to build that steam. So probably between 5 and 10 minutes before you see the steam coming out and it starts to count down. That is fine. I have built that into the cook time. So 12 minutes is what you want to do for the 6.5 quart Ninja Foodi. I will be testing this out in the 8 quart, and I'll let you know if there's any differences in the written recipe. Okay, so we finished the 12 minutes of steaming. No need to release pressure because no pressure was built. It's still to the vent, so you can always open up the lid. One thing you might want to know, though, is that sometimes the red button will pop up under steam, but just for a short period of time, and then it'll depress. If it does not depress after the first couple of minutes, check to make sure you're all the way to the vent. All right, so let's lift the lid. Now, under steam and pressure cooking, these silicone handles are wonderful. They are not hot at all. Under the bake roast function, broil, or air crisp, they are. So, all right, let's get these out here and see. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at that. Now we have perfectly steamed buns. That's exactly what they're supposed to look like. So what you do, because they're still pliable, is you just stuff them with whatever filling you want and you eat them. They are like really soft and fluffy. Oh, I absolutely love these. I'm so excited that I can make them in the Ninja Foodi. All right, so let me get a plate. Now, one thing that I made earlier today was an Asian pulled pork because they're going to pair perfectly with these steamed buns. And I will link to that recipe right up there. I also made some quick pickled vegetables. So the only thing that is in here, I have thinly sliced ginger, thinly sliced onion, thinly sliced sweet red peppers, which I get in a bag, but you could also use a red bell pepper, just slice it thin, and then matchstick carrots that I sliced. Well, they're carrots that I sliced into matchsticks. Then I have a half of a cup of water and a half of a cup of rice vinegar and 1 tablespoon of sugar. So I heat the water, dissolve the sugar in the hot water, add the vinegar, throw it in a jar, just put it in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it. This will last pretty much forever. Now I've only had this going for about an hour or so that's why it's called a quick pickle, because we can use it right now. All right, so get your bun, and then you want to get some of this delicious pork or whatever filling you want. Like if you wanted to make, a chicken Asian dish or anything like that, you could just put this right in these buns. You will thank me. So now let's get on our pickled vegetables. Get a fork here, get some carrots out. Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot fresh cilantro. That would be perfect. I don't have any though. So I'm just gonna have to make do. I'm gonna grab out an onion. I'm gonna try to dig down and grab, oh, here's some ginger. You can shake this up so that some of the other vegetables come up to the top. Look at that. Now let's grab a red pepper. I can find one, there we go. And these again are sweet, they're not hot. Wow. How beautiful is that? I'm I'm so excited. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness. Wow. Those flavors are perfect together. I mean, perfect. The steamed bun is light, it's fluffy, it's soft. It's unbelievable. The pork is tender, flavorful, absolutely delicious. And those pickled vegetables are just like the icing on the cake, so to speak. I mean, absolute perfection. Wow. Oh my goodness. That pickled ginger is like a flavor bomb. Everything about this is perfect. I definitely encourage you to make the pork with the steamed buns. Perfection. Wow. These steamed buns are like, they're so easy to make and they are so delicious. And you don't have to fill them with an Asian pork or even an Asian dish. You could put chicken salad inside of here. You could do BLTs. You could do an egg sandwich. I really hope you give these a try because they are delicious.